Strasbourg, France, known as the capital of Christmas. It is also your oldest Christmas market, dating back to 1570. It's hard to imagine that there used to be one single market to now it spreads over to 12 different squares and over 300 wooden chalets. In this video, you're going to see why this is the most magical Christmas market on earth and why every person needs to visit this place at least once in their lifetime. And Strasbourg is by the German border in the Alsatian region, and you could take a train, you could fly, and also you could drive. We drove because we were about 2.5 hours north, outside of Frankfurt, where my host family was from, but we made sure we had enough time. That way we could see the Christmas markets during the day and the evening, and also we weren't getting back super late. And Strasbourg also has a labyrinth of canals, which makes it even more beautiful. They had different canal tours, but obviously we didn't come here to do the canal tours. I've been here before during the summer, so what we really wanted to do was to see the Christmas markets and what all the hype was about. And the first Christmas market square that we visited, it was a typical market that didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary, but this square, each booth had unique items that each sold from the Alsatian region. Whether it was baked goods, different wine, to knitted hats, it was all done from this region in Strasbourg. And one of the nice things about the Strasbourg Christmas markets, I could tell you, is that it is spread apart all over the city. So when you get a dense crowd of people, it gets spread apart. And you'll see later on in this video that when it hits nighttime, when you're in the old square, the old part of Strasbourg, it really gets congested. But right here, as you could see, it was not busy at all, and you had a lot of nice options, and you could go at your leisure without having glue wine and getting your elbow bumped into and worry about it getting on your jacket or anything. And if you're wondering why Strasbourg has a German name, that's because this part was part of Germany for many centuries, and as of recent, it was under German control when Adolf Hitler annexed the Alsatian region during World War II. So if you see these structures, they're very much German looking. And yes, there are some French influence, but this is something typical that you would see in Germany. But don't be mistaken, this is very much a French city. I noticed you do see a lot of German influence, but the French will remind you, you are very much in France. But nonetheless, regardless of the territorial wars throughout the centuries, this city is absolutely beautiful, and the inhabitants here in Strasbourg are very proud of their heritage and to live here. But as we started walking from the outskirts of the city and into the old town, you could just see how clean and beautiful it was. When I took my daughter here a handful of years ago, she said it reminded her of the village of where Belle lived in the movie Beauty and the Beast. And I can't disagree. It is absolutely stunning. It is like a storybook little town. And after looking at some of these buildings that were built in the 16th and 17th century, some of them, I did some of my own research to see if Strasbourg itself was ever bombed or damaged throughout the centuries. And what I found is that it was bombed a little bit during World War II, but not as bad as some of the other French and German cities during the war. So I thought it was pretty remarkable that Strasbourg was blessed by keeping these structures intact and their historic values. And as we continued on through the markets, a lot of the booths were a little redundant and repetitive, and I mean that because every 4 or 5 booths you would see that they're selling the same nutcrackers or same Christmas ornaments, stuff like that. So as much as they were beautiful and pretty, every 4 or 5 booths they kind of would have the same stuff. I don't know if they're the same quality, just different people selling them. But irregardless, the Christmas booths are only a fraction of what people come for. It's the ambiance, the architecture, and just the vibe with all the people and having that Christmas feel. And after seeing a couple squares of different Christmas markets, we really kind of saw what Christmas markets were about, what they were selling. And again, a lot of them were repetitive. And we just wanted to take in the architecture, the ambiance, the Christmas feel of Strasbourg. And at that time we were getting really hungry because again, we had a 2.5 hour journey. So we were looking for a good traditional Alsace French restaurant. And my host brother Johan and his wife Sophie said, you know what? We should really have some good Alsace traditional pizza known as tarte flambée, or in German Flammkuchen, which is a rustic thin crust flatbread pizza which is cheese, thinly sliced onions, and you could put bacon on it. And I will tell you, having that for the first time, it was absolutely amazing. I added some Munster cheese as a topping, and I wish I ordered another. The restaurant we ate at was very busy, and it was very traditional, and it made me feel like that we were in an 18th century pub sipping on some really good glue wine. And not to take away from any of the Christmas market food, they had some really good traditional sausages and some French cuisine. I highly recommend you trying that as an appetizer, but if you really want a good French/German style food, I suggest coming in and sitting at a place like this. It was awesome. The ambiance was great, and I'm glad I did it. And as we moved on to another square, more markets, more chalets, more booths, I realized that, you know what, maybe some of the stuff that I said was redundant wasn't as much redundant. They had a lot of different soaps. They had some Strasbourg souvenirs, stuff that I didn't see in other Christmas markets in different squares. So it was cool to see now I'm finally seeing some new stuff that I haven't seen before. And a little bit about the glue wine. It's traditional all over the world in Christmas markets, but obviously in Germany and Europe, you can either get white or red. For 4 years, you get a small, 5 years, you get a large. It's really preference. If you get the white, and if it's in a crowded area, if it splashes on you, no harm, no foul, because it won't stain. If you get the red, not so much, that'll stain. So it's up to you what one you want to choose. I was going back and forth. I had some white, then I had some red. I didn't have a preference. I thought they both tasted well. And just a little fun fact and something you do get €1 back if you return the cup. It's a plastic cup. It's pretty cool. It says Strasbourg on it, and it's a cool souvenir if you want to spend €1 on it. And at this point, as the sun was settling and the dusk was upon us, it started to get a lot busier. And this is when I believe Strasbourg really becomes alive and becomes a real magical place. And if you remember what I just said 30 seconds ago, if you choose red or white glue wine, you might want to change it to white, because when you have all mixtures of elderly people, younger people, you have kids, you might want to go with white wine in case someone hits your elbow and it gets splashed. Again, it's easy to get that stain out, whereas if you have red, it's going to stay on there. And because I am a huge lover of cheese, I saw this storefront and I had to go in and try and see what this store was all about. And it was amazing. When I first went in there, the smell, the aroma of everything was phenomenal. They had different types of cheeses that were infused with whatever you wanted. I tried an amazing goat cheese, which it was excellent, but I decided not to get that. And he decided to give me a truffle-infused Munster cheese. It blew me out of the water, and I said, absolutely, I gotta get it. So I said, when in Rome, why not? He measured out, and I told him when to stop. I get this big hunk of cheese, and I think it was about 2.5 pounds worth. He sealed it in this machine. He said there would be no problems whatsoever of taking it through customs. As he said, a lot of Americans bring cheese back home, and this chunk of cheese costs about $135. And just when I thought the crowds that we experienced all evening and afternoon were the busiest, I was wrong. Right here in Strasbourg is the busiest spot in all of the city and the old town, because we're right next to the cathedral, and this is the heart of Strasbourg. And if what I showed you so far, if you thought that was beautiful, wait until you see in the next few minutes of what Strasbourg is really going to show you. And I just want to, again, because I've done it in other videos, give you a little bit of an interactive map showing you so you get a good bird's eye view of everything. We parked right over here in this area where my mouse is. We walked through this carriage where horses were once stabled, and we walked around here. We crossed, and this is where our first Christmas market was. And then we walked over to this Christmas market, and eventually where I took this picture is where this map was. And where we are right now is overlooking the cathedral right here. So just to give a little bit of perspective, this whole area is the most popular and most visited and walked area in all of Strasbourg, which is this area right here. And yes, the other Christmas markets are busy, but this is the most congested right here. And after I took that picture of the map and we walked maybe 100 feet beyond that, and this is what you see. Just absolute stunning Christmas decorations with that beautiful 15th century cathedral in the backdrop. And this is where Strasbourg really comes alive and what makes it the most magical place and the most visited place during Christmas time in all of Europe and the world. And I'm not even going to insult Strasbourg by saying that this is something you would see in a Hallmark movie, because it's definitely not. Hallmark does not make movies that take place in this kind of magical setting. And I mean, it's just breathtaking. And I had to sit and just stare for a couple minutes of having a Christmas market with a cathedral that was built in the 1400s as a backdrop. I mean, it was impossible not just to look up. And to me, this cathedral had a look that was mixed between the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris and the cathedral in Cologne, Germany. And when I got done being a tourist, taking a bunch of photos and videos, we continued on, and my host brother Johan said there was still a lot more to see, which wasn't going to disagree with him, because there was still a ton more and dozens more booths to look at and visit and see if there was anything that I wanted to take a look at or buy. And here we saw beautiful quality nutcrackers, but unfortunately I didn't need any because I have 5 or 6 of them at home, and I got them from my grandparents when I was a child. They took me to their nutcracker play quite a bit back in New York. And of course, macaroons. There were a bunch of booths that were selling macaroons. I didn't get any. I felt guilty because I have already had a ton of sweets and chocolates from my host family, but it was really nice to see what each booth had to offer. And a little tip, if anyone is wondering if they should visit this cathedral in Strasbourg, 110%. Strasbourg's biggest attraction, whether it's Christmas time or the summer, is seeing this cathedral. It is the most beautiful pieces of architecture that I've ever laid my eyes on, and I've been everywhere around the world. And I think it's one of the best and most beautiful things ever built. I know that's a bold statement considering what you have around the world, but when you go inside, you'll truly see how beautiful it is. And here's a really nice cast of the cathedral itself, giving a layout of what it looks like if it was shrunken down. At first, we almost didn't go in to visit because the line was insane, but we saw that the line was moving very quickly, so we decided to go in, and you'll see here how fast the line was actually moving. If you want to visit, it's open from 8:30 to 11:15 Monday through Saturday, and then it reopens again from 12:45 to 5:45 p.m. on Sundays. So just make sure you give yourself enough time. We made it because I think when I took this video, it was around 4 p.m. And when you first walk in, you're immediately greeted by this beautiful astronomical clock dating back from the early 1800s. I'm not going to dive too crazy inside this cathedral, but I feel it was important to show my viewers that if you go to Strasbourg during the Christmas markets, you might not ever come back again. So I feel like if you're not going to visit the cathedral, you're not fully seeing all of Strasbourg and what it has to offer. So I hope by showing some of these videos of what it looks like inside, it entices people to actually visit. And a person who loves history and majored history in college, I was just blown away by some of these tapestries that dated back to the 1700s. And although I didn't do research of how they preserve these tapestries and what kind of coating they put on them to make them last over 300 years, but it was amazing the condition of what they were in. And if you remember a few minutes ago when we first saw the cathedral as we were walking up to it, this is the south side with a beautiful pained glass on the top, and you could see just how tall it is from the inside. In fact, it was the tallest building in the world from 1647 to 1874. And now that you've seen these videos on the inside and outside, you can hopefully agree with why I said this is one of the most beautiful pieces of architecture I've ever seen. And we walked outside, we were like, wow, it's actually getting darker out. The Christmas lights are getting brighter. And I didn't think we spent a lot of time in the cathedral, but at the time of this video, it was around 5 o'clock or a little bit before. And again, this is when the Christmas markets become alive, and it really shows how dazzling and beautiful the city markets get. So it started to get colder, the crowd started to pick up, which meant longer lines to get food and to get some glue wine, which, if you remember earlier in the video, I said When you have more crowds, it might be wise to switch to some white glue wine in case someone actually bumps into you and it gets on you. And I can't take the credit for that because my host brother Johan is the one that told me that. So shout out to you, Johan. And as Johan and Sophie and their friend Jan and his girlfriend were getting some Nutella crepes, I wanted to take a quick 30-second video as nighttime was approaching and how things started to pick up and become more alive in the streets. And I know I might not ever get back to the city again, so I really wanted to absorb my time here right now. And as crowded as it was, everybody was super friendly. There was no rush to go anywhere, and everyone was just having a great time from all ages, from people my grandparents' age to young children. And surprisingly, I maybe heard one or two Americans during my whole time here. But seeing all the license plates in the parking garage, I could tell you people came as far as Greece, Switzerland, even though that's really close, Lithuania, Belgium, Italy. You can catch my drift. It's a popular place to see and all over Europe. And when I came back after taking some videos, Johan, Sophie, Jan, and his girlfriend were finally getting their crepe. So I took a breather and I watched how they made them because in New York, you don't see that rarely at all. So, take note of this Christmas store name because it is the most popular in all of Europe and is a very high-end place that sells expensive things of anything that's Christmas related. You're going to pay a hefty price, but it's something that you will have in your family for generations. And now here's the icing on the cake of where it is the most congested place in the whole city at that hour, which was around 6 p.m. And you could see why from this video, having 17th century buildings decorated with North Pole magic. We were elbow to elbow, but I didn't even care because I've never experienced anything like this before in my entire life. And I've been to Lapland and North Pole, and I've been to the Christmas Village. This was just on another level. And if you're wondering where this street is, it is literally a 30-second walk from the cathedral and the marketplace square, and it is called Rue du Maroquin. And I'm sure I butchered that street name, so I apologize. But that is something you definitely need to write down and visit when you come during the holiday season. Because as you can see here, it is absolutely packed and is the most probably visited place of all of Strasbourg besides the cathedral and that whole square. And it got so busy that Strasbourg hired people to keep tourists moving and keep congestion to a minimum as best they could. But I did not care. I ignored their commands because I know this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip, and I wanted to immerse myself as best I could in a city that truly feels like you're in a Christmas village in the North Pole. And as we were all walking back to our car in the parking garage, I was reminiscing of what I had just experienced the last 4 or 5 hours. I don't care what nationality you are or what you believe in. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, this is one of the most beautiful places to visit on this planet. And I can say that because I saw so many different cultures and walks of life from around the world, and I saw one thing that everyone had in common: a smile, a laugh, and photos that will last an absolute lifetime. And people always say to me and friends, why would you spend so much money on a trip? And some of them have a valid point. It is very expensive, but when you travel, you become smarter and you become more educated and worldly. And although you might not have something tangible in your hand from all that money that you spend on vacation, you have something more valuable. You have the memories that will last a lifetime, and you have the photos and videos to prove it. And when you get old and you might not remember the trips like these, I know that doing these types of videos will remind you of just how amazing the world is and what each and every country brings to the table for everyone in the world to see and enjoy. And if you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button because Passport Planet does not let any dust collect on any pair of shoes that we wear. There's so much the world has to offer, and I cannot wait to share more experiences with all of you.